Tonight on KGW News, the chase of a stolen truck that ended like this.
You could see just the back end of the truck sticking out of the water.
And the extraordinary efforts it took to save a pregnant passenger from the wreckage.
Plus, a concerning statistic. Oregon saw the most domestic terror plots of any state in the country last year. Why it may be especially vulnerable to that kind of crime.
And later, it was a big draw in 1970, Portland's first climate-controlled mall.
Sure was different when we were kids. Pretty cool. I used to love coming here with my mom.
And now, it's the end of an era. Your news starts now.
And first tonight, you can barely make it out in the darkness as a river threatens to claim her life. A woman screaming to deputies to please be careful because she's pregnant. Good evening, I'm David Molto.
And I'm Laurel Porter. That body cam footage captured a real-life rescue that began, deputies say, with a stolen pickup truck and ended with the suspect running and his pregnant girlfriend being pulled to safety. Our Alma McCarty takes us through those harrowing moments.
Tense moments on the Tualatin River just after 2 a.m. Wednesday morning.
Hang on.
On this end of the rope and in the water, deputies rescuing a woman 6 months pregnant after her boyfriend catapulted their car into the river.
Why would you do that?
The rescue unfolding just south of Hillsborough after police say the driver of a stolen truck took off down a rural road and then through a field away from deputies.
It was extremely dark, extremely rough, and the car was just kind of bombing through the hills, and I fully expected to just see it crashed into a tree somewhere.
Instead, Corporal Daniel Lancaster,
Go over here where my light is.
Stand by.
I got detention.
Trying to get this around her.
and deputies Michael Vargas and John Skoglund found the pickup in the water.
You could see just the back end of the truck sticking out of the water. The taillights were still on, and female occupant passenger was on the other side, clearly struggling, saying she can't swim, calling for assistance.
Deputies eventually pulled her from the river. Had they not been there,
really terrible result because those banks were, you can't get up those banks without assistance.
Deputies say the driver, identified as 32-year-old Jonathan Laura, abandoned the vehicle and his pregnant girlfriend, swam to the far riverbank, then ran off into the woods with a dog that was also in the car.
She was pretty upset. She was in shock that those were her words in the video. You can see that she was so upset that he had done this.
Investigators pulled the stolen pickup out of the water and located the dog, safe and unharmed.
Glad she's okay. I'm glad the baby's okay.
Well, as of tonight, Jonathan Laura is still out there. Investigators, of course, asking anyone with information to call police. Meantime, the female passenger was taken to the hospital right after she was rescued. She was released with no significant injuries.
Oh, we're so glad she and the baby are okay, and the dog. Thank you, Alma. The latest victims of gun violence in Portland are two teenage boys. They were hurt tonight in a shooting about 5:30 on Southeast Holt Street near Kelly Butte. Police say one of the teens was shot multiple times and has serious injuries. The other has a minor wound. We talked to a neighbor who heard the shots that are starting to sound all too familiar.
I heard like 4 or 5 gunshots, just bam, 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 bam. I hear it almost every night. I mean, it's somewhere around the neighborhood.
There's no word yet on any suspects.
And Laurel, this comes on the heels of 2 other shootings that happened within 6 hours of each other and left 5 people hurt. So late Tuesday night, police responded to a shooting on Southeast Woodstock and found 1 man had been hit. Then early this morning, a shooting on Southeast Powell, as the map moves here, sent a man and a woman to hospital. A witness reported seeing shots fired from one moving car into another vehicle. Police learned while investigating that 2 more gunshot victims from that same shooting were already also in the hospital.
We also learned today an Uber driver was one of the most recent homicide victims in the city. Friends and family say Shani Mohammed was killed in a shooting Sunday night in Northeast Portland. Mohammed was a refugee from Somalia who left the country to escape the violence there, only to be killed here while driving for Uber. He leaves behind 8 children and a community that's remembering him as a quiet man who loved soccer.
To hear that he's no longer with us, it was very, very difficult to see, because it's somebody who came to the community center with his family, somebody that we knew him. It's difficult for our community, and it's hard to move forward.
It is heart-wrenching. Mohammed is the fourth person to be killed at this intersection of Northeast 82nd and Milton since August of last year. Police are putting together a plan to try to address gun violence in this neighborhood. ODOT crews spent the day in Salem clearing campers from the spot where a car crashed into tents, killing 4 people. They're also taking out a tree that was damaged. The crash happened Sunday at the corner of Northeast Front and Division Streets. Police say the driver was drunk and speeding at the time. The sweep here was planned before the crash. It's one of 16 locations ODOT is cleaning up in the area.
Well, domestic terrorism is on the rise in America, and apparently Oregon is leading the way. Tonight on The Story, our Pat Doris took a look at a new report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he asked why Oregon seems to top the list when it comes to these kinds of criminal acts.
The center found in 2021 73 domestic terror plots or attacks across the country. 18 of those were in Oregon. That's the most anywhere, and most of those were around the Portland area. The next highest was New York with 7 plots or attacks. Against that grim backdrop, auditors in Oregon's Secretary of State office issued a report Wednesday saying the state needs to do more to protect itself against future domestic terrorism. And one of the big problems, there's no way for someone to be charged on a state level for domestic terrorism in Oregon. The crime just does not exist in the state law.
Despite Oregon's high-risk profile in this area, we are one of only 16 states that do not have specific legislation criminalizing domestic terrorism and violent extremism. So that is one of the recommendations we're intending for legislators to consider as they address this high-risk area going forward.
There's also no federal domestic terrorism law. I talked about that with former United States Attorney for the District of Oregon, Billy Williams.
Just curious, based on your experience, do you think that it emboldens the actors on the far right and the far left to do more of these things because they know there's no federal law against it?
Yeah, I think it does. Just like I think in terms of the criminal violence on the street level in Portland and other major cities in the United States has ramped up again because of positions taken around the country and not enforcing the law. The rule of law matters. People need to be held accountable, and if they know they're not going to be, well, we see what the result is.
I also got a chance to talk with Williams about the situation in the Klamath Basin, where years of water shortages have led to threats of farmers taking over the dam. You can hear how he talked with the parties involved to prevent that takeover last year. Just check out the KGW YouTube channel for our full report.
The second COVID booster shot now has the green light in Oregon and Washington. Health officials in both states have approved the booster following yesterday's federal eligibility expansion. That means you can expect the shot to be available soon in your local pharmacies. Safeway, Albertsons, and Walgreens all told us today they have started giving out the boosters, assuming the specific pharmacy has the vaccine in stock. The eligibility list now includes people 50 and older, as long as it's been at least 4 months since your last shot. Previously, only people considered immunocompromised were eligible for that second booster.